Hello, and welcome to a game prep session for my Gears of Vengeance campaign. It's the first time that I am doing this multi-streaming to both Twitch and YouTube, so we'll see how it goes. For those of you who have not seen any of these, I've only done one before, so it's probably most everybody. I am basically doing a short prep session for the Gears of Vengeance game, which is playing this afternoon. Basically, Gears of Vengeance is a mega dungeon campaign set in my home world, which is here on World Anvil. If you are viewing, it is an interesting world to me, at least. It's a world I built about 20 years ago and then kind of lost on some hard drives, and now I found it about 6 months ago, maybe 9 months ago now, and have filled it out further than what it was before. It's basically a series of flying islands, although one of the islands is basically the size of, it's a little bit smaller than Western Europe. So the island itself, what I call the Sky Islands, Ayers, the whole thing is that size, and it's got a pretty large sea and ocean. You can kind of see it here on the Lastrian map here, and in fact maybe I'll show it here in a little bit, but today we're trying to set up the plot and stuff for this afternoon session, which is session 7. The character, kind of what is, give a recap of what's gone before. There's 3 characters. My 3 kids are playing this game with me, and one of them's a fighter named Morgoth, one of them is a rogue named Andal, and the other one is an artificer named Silva. They have been under a contract from an NPC artificer named Castor Fizbolt, a gnome who has been trying to find some new technology so that he can try to get some contracts with the local baron. As such, he has contracted them to go search for dwarven ruins and see if they can find a variety of technology that the dwarves from before had created, because there was supposedly a relatively advanced dwarven civilization about 2,000 to 3,000 years ago in the mountains to the west of where this campaign takes place. The campaign itself takes place in Tanelvar, which is a city in it's actually almost right underneath this Alastrian thing here, which I don't have the full map to yet, but will hopefully I'm going to start doing some world creation sessions, Twitch streams as well. So we'll see how this goes. But today we need to continue with the plot. So last time, let me start up with a plot article. So I use World Anvil for most of my stuff, and I recommend it. I used to use Obsidian Portal. It's all right, it's decent, but this one definitely is a little more full featured to me. It allows me to do more things, link all my articles together, make a whole set of, in essence, an encyclopedia for my game, which is great. And then I can just give links to my players and say, here, go at it. Read to your heart's content, as much or as little as you want. But at the same time, I'm also building up my world piece by piece as I need to. So I'm sort of some people do the top down, some people do the bottom up. I kind of do bottom up with a little bit of top down after some of the initial bottom up is done. So, and then I'll get enough, especially since I'm running another campaign which is very sandboxy in the same world. So for that one, I need a lot more small tidbits for every little thing, for a wide variety of things, versus this campaign, which is very much centered in one spot, and so I can go into depth in that one spot. But for today, we need to make a plot, so we're going to do a plot article here. And so last time the players were trying to get out of a ruined garrison. So they had explored a ruined garrison, found a whole bunch of interesting pieces of technology to take back to their benefactor. And then one of the guys who is trying to prevent them from Castor has a rival, and that rival has hired some other guys to try to prevent the players from getting some of this stuff, so that Castor himself can't progress in the world. So the characters themselves got that rival gang collapsed the entrance. So they've been trying to figure a way out. they had found a series of stairs that led down into a set of caverns, and so they've been kind of going through these caverns, assuming that they're eventually going to find their way out. So at this point in time, they have made it through about halfway through the caverns. So this one is episode 7. I don't have a name for it yet, so we'll just call it TBT. And then this is, let me go back, because I was just going to start from last episode's. So if we look at episode 6 plot, I was going to start from here. So I was going to copy this thing up, and because a lot of the stuff will be very similar, because they're still trying to get out of the caverns. So now we can go here to 7. So that's kind of where we're at here. So they're in the caverns. They recently defeated some fungus creatures again in the caverns. So as you see, this is the episode 6 one. So continuing from last time, they were going through a series of caves. This tells you what we're trying to do for the thing. So they discover the main colony of the fungus as they meet some of the cave dwellers, such as a dark mantle. So they made it through the colony of fungus last time. So they're past that. What they're interested in now is there's some crystals and things, on the wall that are worth a decent amount of money to alchemists and things like that. They're glowing crystals that pulse with a purplish light. They're called Hyacinthal Crystals, and they're used in like magical lamps, and crushed. They're used in some magical light spells and things like that, or light formula and stuff like that. So they're trying to, when the episode ended, last session ended, they were going to try to, chisel out some of these things, put them in this iron box that they've been carrying from the garrison itself, and then try to continue on their way out. So, we're probably going to have they get some of the crystals, and then we'll probably and then they continue out. But as they continue out, they haven't reached the point where they find the dark mantles yet. So, in fact, they're literally not too far away. So they're going to probably find those things and the bats, and they should. I'm expecting this time for them to make it outside the caverns this session. This is a pretty straightforward tunnel shot directly to outside. That being said, there is a couple offshoots, one of which just leads to a dry riverbed that basically is the explanation for why this cavern exists in the first place. And the other is a place where they can go further down and find out that there is a series or a tribe of hill goblins had been living in this cavern before. There's a connection here because in the very first episode of the campaign, they ran into hill goblins in a different dwarven garrison. Ruined garrison, and almost died to them. Actually, it was a little series of comedic errors, but and it turns out they're the exact same tribe. They used to live in this cavern system. Their scouts found the other ruins, and then moved to that set of ruins. So it's just an interesting little tidbit that kind of ties a few things together if they decide to go down into it. As you see here, I've got a few things or NPCs that they'll meet. Halton Forest is the NPC that I've been going with them because there's only 3 of them, so I've been trying to give them a little bit of help. The sentient fungus is what they did last time, so we'll kind of remove that for now. They will do some dark mental stuff today. Probably gets through some bats. There's maps that they will go through, which will be again, they're still doing the Kahar garrison is what's called here, and they'll probably get back to Tanovar. So what are we trying to do today? Well, I mean, the parent plot for this is still let's see here, the outposts level 1 through 2. So that's kind of I kind of break up my campaigns into sort of level zones. So right now they're still level 1 through 2. They just made it to second level a couple sessions, like last session. So trying to keep that kind of going for them. Let's see here. There's no really thing that I want to add into any of this stuff because most of my journal entries and things like that are in Foundry because I use Foundry for my virtual tabletop. So actually there is this though. So the objective here is to get out of caverns and back to Tanovar with the new magic items that they have. And to be more specific on that, they found actually 4 or 5 different magic items this particular trip. Their first trip, they'd found one kind of saber kind of weapon that could had some. You could put these magical spheres inside of its hilt, and when you sort of compress the side, it would electrify the blade. And then do some extra damage, electricity damage. This time around, they found a gun-like or pistol-like weapon. It kind of looks like a sort of like a hand crossbow without the actual bow area of it. That when you put these magical spheres in, that will shoot either bolts of fire. They've only tried the fire ones. There actually are some other types of spheres that they haven't put into there they could try. It could do cold, it could do acid, it could do a bunch of things. They found, excuse me, a shield that can have some of these spheres, which they haven't done anything with, which basically is a dancing shield. If they were to activate it, it would then become a shield that basically can act just like the shield from the wizard shield spell. So it can automatically add to the bonus to their armor as a reaction. Otherwise, it just is a normal +2 as a shield would normally be, but at least keeps their hands free. So in essence, you could have the shield plus a 2-handed weapon. So it's a sort of a benefit. They found some goggles that basically give the person dark vision if they put them on and put a sphere in. They found a monocle, which basically is a detect magic kind of monocle that if they put a sphere in. But based on what sphere you put in, that's the kind of magic it'll detect. So it's a little more limited than the other thing. In general, what they're finding is a bunch of technology made by these ancient dwarves that are based on distilling magic down into a sphere based on different forms. Now, the world itself works on these ley lines. So basically, you're distilling a piece of the ley line down into a tangible form that you can then put into the item and charge it for a bit, usually for one use. So in the case of the bolter, which is the pistol-like thing, one sphere shoots out one bolt. In the case of the dancing shield, one sphere does 1 minute of it moving around. In the case of the dark vision goggles, one sphere does an hour. So things of that nature. They've also found a couple other things. They found a studded leather armor that basically can do resistance to various damage types based on what's activated inside of it. And there was one other thing, which suddenly is escaping me. Not a big deal. So they need to get those items back to their guy, who can then try to figure out what they are and do some stuff. The other thing that they actually found out last time, or in this garrison, is they basically were able to create a functioning or a map that works with their knowledge of the current geographical features of the area to kind of figure out where the main citadel of these dwarves is. So they have a pretty decent idea of where it's at. I'm kind of hoping they go one more place first before they go to the citadel, for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is that the citadel is intended for like 3rd or 4th level and not for 2nd level characters. But we'll see where they go from that. The intent of so they need to get back to there. What do we expect? Opening coolness, NPCs. Well, there's going to be Alton is still going to be there, which he's not in my NPC list. Maps, I'm not worried about that. So that's kind of all I want to get in for the plot stuff. I mean, because this is pretty, it's continuing from stuff we've already been doing. So there's not a lot of things that I need to have them do or see or need to have in here. That being said, there is a particular portion of this episode or this particular session where we've played long enough that. Pardon me a second. We've played long enough that I want to do another character kind of session. So it'll probably take them an hour and a half to get through this particular to get out of the caverns. And so once that is done, we're gonna do. They'll get back to town. They're gonna probably have some time to do some stuff in town because they're gonna with those crystals and stuff. They're gonna want to try to sell them, and then they'll get some money from that. And they'll probably want to do some things based off of that, like potentially. Buy some new equipment, buy some pistols and things like that, because they should have. My guess is based on the crystals, they'll probably get about upwards of 1,000 gold from all of that, based on how long they're going to do it. If each one of them does a crystal, they're worth about 200 to 300 gold a piece, so they'll probably get close to 1,000 gold. So they'll be able to kind of buy a bunch of things to really help them moving forward. Especially with, they really need some more healing because they're light on healing at this point in time. But that means I then want to ask them some more character questions after this. So I want to get the character questions in here because that is important for what we're going to do today. So one of the questions I want to ask them as part of their character development, as sort of the second half of the session, is do they have any siblings? And kind of what is your relationship with those siblings? So I kind of want to start diving a little bit into the backstory. Like we've had this will be 7 sessions now where they've kind of been playing the characters a bit. We should start really kind of diving a bit into the backstory of the characters a bit, so that we have I have some things to tie their characters into the campaign as a whole. So that's the first kind of question I want to ask them. The second one I wanted to know is, oh man, I had a whole list of them, and now I seem to have forgotten what they are. Let me find them real quick because I had it here. Here we go. So that was one of them. So I went to I did a search online for different questions that you might ask for character development. So siblings was one. Another one here is going to be there's another. What made you decide to be the class you are? So the one's a rogue, one's a fighter, one's an artificer. Why did they choose to be that particular class? What led them down that path? Let's see here. Then another one was, what do you do for work? I mean, before this, they had to do some kind of work. Otherwise, they're adventurers now, and they're definitely going to start making a decent living because they're finding some interesting stuff. But what did they do before this? How do they do this? So this is sort of a thing will give me some ideas for some some ancillary background characters that may come back to haunt them or come to the fore. And then why did you leave that work? Oh, actually, I should just put this in there. Why did you leave that work? So a couple things have already been done with this. Like Morgoth, the fighter, he was a member of the guard, the city guard. So why did he leave? I mean, it seems like it's a relatively cushy thing. So why? Let's go through kind of why he left. Now, I kind of know a little bit of that because we've talked about it. He left because he is one of the minority races. Well, they're the major minority. So there's 2 races of human that live in this kingdom. One is the Seer, the other one's the Diary, and the Seer are basically conquerors. They've conquered this area, which was basically Diary lands, and so basically most of the populace is Diary, and Morgoth is one of them, but he was part of the Black Watch, and many of the Black Watch are Seer, but not all of them, and so there's some tension there. So I want to delve a little bit into that with him, and then. Let's see here. Another one was I was going to say, do you have a rival from your past? So something like that. So do they have one? The answer can be no. If so, why is she a rival? The answer can be no. Some of these questions can just they're meant to flesh things out. So they can be no. Like I don't have a rival. And that can be simple enough. But if they do, why was there a rivalry there? And the last one I want to have is, what is your biggest fear? This one is usually one that's hard to, because you're coming into a character, you've got your own biggest fears as a player, but what is your biggest fear from that character? Kind of put yourself in the shoes of the character, and how are you afraid, or what are you afraid of? So kind of things that some of these are intended to give me some ideas for adventures in the future. Some of them are intended to just the players a chance to fill out their character a little bit, so they have a better idea of when we move forward how they might want to play it. So that's kind of where I'm going to go with these sorts of things. That's kind of it for prepping for this session. Again, it's kind of it's a light session because they should be able to get through most of the cavern pretty quickly. And once they're out, it'll be basically, downtime to some extent, and me kind of going over these questions. Now, there is a bit of a prep that I forgot about here that I do need to add in, which is the following session we're going to add 2 new players. And those players, well, we're going to add 1 new player the following session. The other one can't start until the one after that. So I want to try to I'm going to sort of lay the groundwork for those guys. I just haven't figured out how that's going to be yet. So I need to lay the groundwork for the alchemist. One of them is going to play an alchemist who's on the run. He supposedly he tried to help a woman who was sick, and his alchemical concoction actually changed her into a monster, and so he fled instead of facing the consequences. And the blood hunter. The other one's a blood hunter, who is a member of the Seer, the chosen of Seer. So the chosen of Seer are basically an Inquisition, similar to the Inquisition from the medieval times. They hunt down and kill wizards, warlocks, sorcerers, elves, anything that is heretical to some extent. So she's a member of their more secretive brotherhood internally, which is the Order of the Inquisition. But it's going to turn out so she's a blood hunter, but blood hunters don't actually pick their order until 3rd level. So she's being trained in the Order of Inquisition, but she's eventually going to become an Order of Lycan blood hunter. I think I need to confirm that with her, but so it'll be interesting. It's one of these things where she's going to be tracking them because the chosen of Seer are interested now because there's rumors of this new technology, especially once we get another session going through this. There's starting to be rumors that these guys are starting to find these things because Castor is a gnome who's very, very curious and can't keep his mouth shut. So he started to let it out of the bag that he's found some interesting things, or some interesting things have come into his hands. And so the chosen of Seer have decided that they need to track this because who knows what the dwarves made 2,000 years ago? Is it something that should be allowed to come back to the fore? So she's being sent out to kind of track these guys down, but she she's been pressed into this thing because she herself is in essence some kind of magical kind of being, and so I think over the course of the first several sessions, she's going to figure out that, yeah, she'll continue to report back to them, but after a while, she's just going to stop, and we'll see how the consequences of that. But so I need to kind of lay the groundwork in this session for some of these guys to start showing up in here. That's kind of it. I mean, I don't normally I follow Sly Flourish's lazy DM kind of prep, so this is a little lazy. I don't necessarily start every session with a bang like he tries to do, but that's because my sessions are very variable. Like sometimes the last session we had to stop early because of Valentine's Day and stuff like that, so we can only make it so far. I try to plan 2 to 3 hours, but sometimes it's a little longer, sometimes it's a little less. This one I expect will be about an hour to an hour and a half, and then questions, and then hopefully we'll stop there. I hope you find this interesting. I will probably do another one the next time I do Gears of War, or Gears of Vengeance. Gears of War, I should never have named this Gears of Vengeance. And I have another campaign coming up called Red Skies that is a pirate-based campaign that it plays more regularly, so that will be this one. This particular campaign is every other week, so expect maybe one of these every other week. That one is an every week one that'll probably start mid to late March, and I'll do some stuff with that one. And I'm also planning on doing some prep world building sessions, live sessions, things like that as I make various maps. Like I need to make the region map for this particular campaign. I haven't made it yet. It's possible that I will be working on it tomorrow and I'll just start streaming it. And that one will be definitely a longer a longer kind of session than these game preps. Some of these game preps will actually be longer than this one too. Like I said, this one there's a bunch of stuff already pre-made, so there's not a lot for me to add to it. But some of them will be a lot longer. Like the next one will probably be a bit longer because they will be probably going out to either a different set of ruins or looking to go to the main citadel itself. So there will be a lot more going on for that one. I hope you find this interesting. If so, give me a follow. If not, well, give me some feedback and let me know how it can be better. I'm always in the mood for that. So thanks for watching, and have a good day.